All right, today is Monday, the 5th of December, and two things. First of all, just so you're aware of this, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell or not as I'm going through this, I have bronchitis, and I'm doing the best I can. My voice gave out after about 2 hours for the morning class, and I'm hoping it lasts at least that long for this class. All right, I sent this thing out this morning. Again, we're going to be working on the MERN stack project until we finish it. All right. And if you don't mind, I'd like it if you'd give me some help in that I'm not sure exactly where we left off last time. So under our source components here, it looks like, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, we did not yet create a new component called todo.js. Is that correct?
I think that's correct, yeah.
Okay, then let's start right there. So under components, what I'd like you to do, please, is to, right mouse click on your components folder, put a new file in there. We'll call it todo.js. All right. And again, make sure it's under your components. And we're just going to start coding. All right. As we've done several times, we'll start by RAFCE, which will get us started with our template. All right. So we've got our import React from React, cons to do, return. And for now, at least, I'm just going to make this an H1 and put to do app or something like that in here. All right. All right. And of course, export it like we've got here. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to copy the majority of what's in our list.js file into this file, and then back in our list, we'll remove it, but don't remove it right away. Make a copy. Okay, so come back into here, find your list.js, and I want you to copy, if you would please, everything in the return statement here. So we're copying that. We're going over to the to-do, and we're going to replace what is in there with this. So right now, basically, it's doing the same thing in both files, which is totally fine. All right. All right. Then going back, let's do a file save all and go back into our list.js. And the first thing we want to do is at the top here, we want to import to do from /components /to do. All right. So that's the first thing. And I don't know how I got that there, but I did. There we go. All right. And what we've got in here with this div, everything that's in here, we're going to replace it basically. So get rid of all of the guts. So we just have this. And we're going to put in here to do. Now, one thing I'm trying to get across to you is as your programs get more and more complex, you're going to build more and more components. And eventually you'll have a lot of components, subcomponents, subcomponents, etc. All right. So I'm just trying to show you this, and hopefully everything is going to, right now we should be able to go in and do a save all, view our terminal. And then do our npm start. And again, what I'm trying to show right here is make sure right here is we haven't broken anything. Well, it looks like we have. So let's see. It says cannot resolve components to do in source components. All right, then let's take a look at that. So it did not like this line right here. So there's source. In source, there's components. In components, there's to do. So I don't know why it wouldn't like that. To do, export default to do.
Mr. Scott,
Yeah,
you're supposed to have 2 dots.
okie dokie. You're right, go up one. Thank you. Okay, all right. I always appreciate that. So now it says that it completed successfully. And there it is. Okay, that looks a little funky. We'll fix that later. Don't worry about it. All right. So we've got a thing in there right now where we should be able to delete a to-do item and where we want to be able to put something in here, click add and have it be added to the list. This is too small. We'll have to fix that later. I'm not worried about that. All right. But the good news is we can put stuff in here. We can remove stuff. So all that is working. All right. So let's go back into let's go back into our todo.js file. And we're going to make some changes. All right. First thing we want to change is up near the top here. We want to import not just React, but also use state. All right, from React. Now, this should immediately send a signal for you or to you. Anytime we've got a use state, that means in here, we're going to have a const with something in here that's going to be equal to use state with something in there. All right. I mean, that should just hopefully by now make some sense to you. All right. And I tried to use names. They were a little longer, but I tried to make them pretty self-explanatory. All right. So I call this is to do being edited. All right. And then set is to do being edited. All right. And hopefully you can tell by the use of the word is that that is going to be a Boolean variable and we'll set it to false. All right. So what should happen is this should be set equal to true when indeed the value that's in there is being edited. All right. So right now, if we look at this, all right, let me just do a file save here. And let me go back to here. All right. So if I type something in here, all right, and get off and type it in there again, okay. Right now, basically, it's working the way that it should be. So you might say, well, what are we doing? Well, hold on for just a second. All right. Where we've got this, the div class name equal row right here. Right now it says div class name equal row. All right, we want to add something to it. Now, you don't have to do this. We could just keep typing in this line, but normally what you end up doing is you end up doing a lot of this and you put these on separate lines. There's nothing at all that says you have to do this, but it makes it a little bit easier to read. So what I want to change this to is on double click, and what I want to do is when I have a double click, I want to call a routine I'm about to write that's called handle double click. Right? And again, I'm getting that error. I believe I'm getting the error because it hasn't been written yet. So on double click, handle double click. All right. So before the after this const right here, we're going to put in right there. we're going to put in const handle double click. All right. And we're going to put in here an arrow function that's just going to say set is to being edited to true. All right. Now, I'm starting to get some errors already, which is not a good thing, but let's see if we can figure these out. So const handle double click, that there should be an equal sign. That should fix that error. Good. And on double click, handle double click. Trying to figure out what's wrong with this. Let's see. Not sure what that is. So handle double click, that's right.
Mr. Scott, on the on double click, you need the equal sign before the brackets.
Here?
Yeah.
And I must have left it off. Okay. All right. I'm going off of some notes that I've written, and I didn't have it on there, so thank you. All right. So right now, when you look in here, as far as what we're returning, okay, we've got here a UI grid that's center aligned, then on double click, boom. Then we've got this div. All right. Class is equal to row. We've got all this is fine. All right. Excuse me. All right. And let me look at it here. I had printed out a hard copy of these notes that I made, but of course I left them at Rankin. So I'm going off what's on the screen, and this is an earlier copy. No excuse, it was stupid on my part. Let's see. All right. What is supposed to be happening here, and I don't think it is when we come back over to here. All right. When you double click on this, all right. Yeah. I want it to become an empty tag when you double click on it, and it's not. All right. And we'll get it. Just give me a second here. All right. Well, I'm going to do what I think it is, and we'll find out real quick whether or not I'm correct. All right. So with what we've got in here right now, this test to do item and this delete, you already know what that is. All right. That test to do item and the delete are test to do item and delete. Now I'm looking at this. I'm trying to figure out because we said 6 wide, but it's not 6 wide. All right. I'm going to try making this 8 wide and see what this does. No, that's better, but it still isn't the way I want it to be, but it's better. All right. Again, that's not looking the way I want it to, but by setting it to 10, at least you can see everything on one line now. I don't want it to be this way. So you'll notice that right now when we double click on this, all right. Like I said, it's not looking the way I want it to look, but okay. All right. So we've got this test to do item, and then in here, we've got this too wide, and we've got the delete button. All right, that's fine. Now, the problem is what we want to be able to do in here is we want to be able to edit this. We cannot edit it right now. Okay, when you double click on it, nothing happens. I don't mean this. This is if we're adding a new one, but I want to be able to have us go in and edit an existing one. Right now, that capability isn't there. Let's see if we can put it there right now. All right. So coming in here, what we're going to do on right underneath the return here, all right, right underneath the return is we're going to ask, for lack of better words, is to do being edited. All right. And it's going to be yes or no. All right. So if it is, we'll do the question mark. And if it's not, we'll do the colon. Well, that's going to give us an error, but we'll fix it right now. All right. If it is, we want to say input like this. Now, in English, what this means then, all right, is indeed, all right, if it is about to be edited, what it should do when we double click on it, hopefully, is it should be blank in there and it should allow us to make changes. All right. Otherwise, we should be doing all of this. All right. So let me file, save all. All right. Oh, that boy, good golly, Miss Molly. All right. Let me look here. Boom. Okay. We don't want this. And we don't want this. I don't know why it put those extra curlies in there, but it did. That curly should go with this one. All right. Input. So question mark. All right. And then colon should be all of this. All right. Like I said, should be. Let's see here. Why does this look so funky? To the return. It's being edited. Question mark, input, colon. That should be right. Okay, so we can go in now and we can edit this. That's a start. All right, so let me look at the rest of this. So we're asking what we're putting in here, is this being edited? Okay, and again, weird things are happening right now because this, after the return, this should be my parenthesis right there. This should not have an ending parenthesis, and that parenthesis shouldn't be there, and that parenthesis shouldn't be there, and that parenthesis shouldn't be there. All right, trying to rewrite this so that it's correct. So what we're saying here is the is being edited flag true? If it is true, we want to just, when you double click on it, we just want it to show an empty text box. If it's not true, we want it to show what's in there. All right, so that this should be correct. But I'm losing everything that's over here. Now this is correct. I can double click on it and boom, it's there. All right, and that's good. Something is still screwed up in here. I want to, oh, look at it. It's adding all this stuff and I don't want that in here. Yeah, got that one. That's the way that it's supposed to be. It's just like that, but it looks like when I do a file save, it's throwing all that other stuff in there that I don't want, and it's screwing stuff up. This should be correct right there, and for the false, that should be correct, but it sure isn't working the way I want it to. So again, when you double click on the field, the being edited field, it should go and it should show the way it is. All right, and that's true. But when there's nothing, when we don't put anything in there, um, well, we'll have to just go on because I'm not going to ruin this class period by just trying to sit there and fix one error. All right. So what should have happened is when we double click the to-do item, it becomes an empty tag. You saw that was correct. But if you don't double click it, it should still hold all of this information that's right here. It does not appear to be doing that. So when I do a file save and I go back in here, in fact, I'm going to view my terminal and I'm going to stop the run and I'm going to start my run again. Okay, double click. Okay, that's actually doing what it should be doing then. See that? All right, it's showing in there. We haven't put the delete code in there or the add code, but when we double click on this, it changes. Now we're not able to go in here and put something in here yet. There it is. So we can add or remove something, but when we put something in there, if I put hello and I hit enter, nothing's happening. In other words, it's not accepting the change. That's the bad news. But the good news is we now can double click on this. That was something we were never, ever able to do. All right. We were never able to do earlier. All right. When we wanted to go in and edit something in our to-do list, when we were working on the one previously. All right. So when we come in here, let's go back into here. All right. Okay, we've got this 10 wide, this to-do list item, etc. That's all fine. We'll click, we'll click. That's correct. Click equals handle double click. So in wide. All right, let's try changing this right here where it says test to do item. You don't want that in there. We don't want really anything to be in there when we start, but what we want this in here to hold eventually is our whole list of to-do items. All right, now that should make sense. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and where we've got this, I'm going to come in and I'm going to add another div right away. So let me get rid of this and I'm going to add a div. Last name will be equal to UI input. Then we're going to put an input in here. I'm going to set autofocus equal to true. And I'm going to say on key down, we're going to want to handle this. So on key down equals handle to do key down, which we haven't written yet, but we will in just a second. All right, then let's end this div. Well, first we have to end this input. All right, and we've already ended the div, I guess. All right. Yeah, well, it should say that because we haven't written that yet. We're going to write that in just a moment. Okay, so what have we got here? All right. Well, what we want in here, again, what we want to put in here is not hard coding anything. All right. Rather, we want to be able to put in our own to-dos, and how we have our own to-dos be what's basically going to be showing there. All right. So that's what we're going to try to do right now. Now, when we do this, all right, this handle the key down, that's basically is going to occur every time we key in anything. Doesn't matter what it is. But there's two things that we're going to care about. All right. And one is hitting the enter key, and the other one is going to be hitting the escape key. For right now, we're going to handle them the same way, but hopefully it makes sense to you that what we want to have happen is when this empty input tag comes up and you key in something and you hit enter, all right, that it is going to basically, it's going to be updated. All right, it's going to update your change in your to do. All right. And if you hit escape, it'll cancel it out. All right, which is typically an action that you want to do with escape. So we're going to come back up here, and right underneath this handle, double click, we're going to write another thing in here. Let me put some space in here. So right here, we're going to put in const handle to do key down. All right. And when we do this, handle this to do key down, all right, we're going to write another arrow function, but we want to be able to grab the event. This E in here is basically symbolizing whatever's happening. All right. Well, why is that important? Because we want to say something like this. Const key pressed. This is a name I made up, key pressed. It's got no other significance. Equals E dot key code. So everything that we enter in here, every time we enter any key, this is going to be called. All right. Every time we enter any key, what we want to check for right now is, did you hit the enter key? All right. Was either one of those entered? And the way we're going to check that is if key pressed equal 13, which I believe is the enter key, or key pressed equal 27, which I believe is the escape key. So if either one of those happen, we're done editing. So set is to do being edited, set it to false. Right? Okay. So again, try to put it in here in the comments, but just follow along if you would. This is our interface right here. We're going to make one more change in just a minute. All right. Every time we hit any key, we're going to call handle to do key down, which means that we are in the middle of trying to edit this thing to see whether or not either we've hit the enter key to say we're done or hit the escape key to cancel. If either one of those are true, we're going to set this Boolean field equal to false. We don't want to edit anymore. All right. So let me come in here and do a file save all, and I'm going to go back into our list that's right here. All right. So, and don't worry, we're going to be adding some stuff and removing some stuff as we go on in here. All right, just so you know. For now, that's not sufficient. We're going to actually put in here our own title. We'll just call it title. Doesn't really matter. We could call it to-do title. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to come in here and say title equal test to-do number 1. All right. So that's what we're going to have in there. So let me do a file save all. Okay. And it's looking better. But again, what we want to be able to do is if I come in here and type in hello, right, just like that, 5 different key press or key down events just took place. When I hit enter, I'm symbolizing that I'm done, that I'm done doing doing my editing, or when I hit escape, the same kind of thing. Right now, it's not handling it, but hopefully it will in just a couple minutes. All right. So the next thing we want to do, let's do a file save and go back to our todo.js. I'm looking at this, and you may or may not agree with me, but I'm looking at this is in many ways. All right. This is kind of like a puzzle. And you just keep writing stuff, and it's almost like, oh, I'm sort of backed into a corner. Oh, okay, I got to write this new routine to get myself out. All right. So, all right. So we're in our to do here where we've got this const to do equal right there. Okay, we're going to change this and we're going to put title in here. Now, when you pass something from one routine to another, like we did here, what do I mean? Well, when you look here, we're saying title is equal to this. All right. So this test to do number 1 right here, okay, in list is being passed into here. And we talked about this before in class, but I'm saying it again, that's a prop. So when you pass the equivalent of a parameter in from one thing to another, again, that's a prop. All right. Now we came in here and we put in all of this stuff. We just added this, etc. All right. And previously, now I don't remember where it was, but we're going to figure it out, because previously in here in our input right there, all right, previously we had an H2 in there where we had just whatever, that text. All right. So we had that in there, but we don't want that in there. I believe what we're going to want is right here. Well, again, I'll find out right away if I'm wrong or not. Oops. Is that? All right. So I can tell you real fast whether or not what I did was correct. And that does not look good. Right. Get this out of here. Okay, that's back. What I want is I want that thing that says that title to go in here. And for whatever reason, right now it's not. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that in there. All right, so we've got input, autofocus, on key down. All right, but when I come in here and I put that in as an H2, and I just put in title, like that, it doesn't like this. It start to close. All right, we're just going to leave this out for now, but that's going to have to be fixed later. All right. All right, we have to be able to come in here and eventually, when we get this to work, account for that title being in there. All right, I will look during the break to see where I'm screwing up. Hopefully I can figure out what it is. All right, but up here, all right, right now, that's the only thing, that's our state. And that is something being edited or is something not being edited? Okay, that's fine. All right, but we also need to work with, all right, we also need to work with the actual title itself. And when I say title, I want you to understand that's going to be the title. So whatever we call the to-do is the title. I don't know what else to call it. You can call it whatever you want. You could call it to-do, but it might get confusing with some of the code that we're going to write later. All right, I originally called it to-do title. It just didn't look right in there, so I just changed it to title. Okay. All right, so we're going to come in here, and now we're going to add another piece of state. Let's say const to-do value set to-do value. And that's going to be equal to use state, and that will be our title. All right. Okay, and then we're going to say value, which we're going to use later, equals to do value. All right, so we've got a copy of this, and that's in here, and it's called value. Right? Now, we've got here, we've got this to do key down. All right. And it won't really matter if we do it above it or below it, but we're going to write another routine in here. So let's write it down here. And I'm looking right here. We need that. All right. If you ever see where I've screwed something up, and I know I give you plenty of opportunity, let me know. So this is what's going to be called when we double click. This is going to be called for every time we hit the key. In fact, that does not go there because that was in here. So that this is together and this is together. All right, so right under this handle to do key down, we're going to add another event handler in here. And we're going to say const handle to do on change. To do value set to do value. Okay. Set to do value. Target dot value. All right. We're going to write some more code in just a minute, but just so you're aware of it, what we're saying here is when we double click this and we're attempting to edit this to do, all right, we want to set its value to whatever it is we're typing in. That e.target.value will be whatever value, whatever value we ended up putting into that text box when we double clicked on it. All right. All right, now I've got to figure out where the doggone H2 tag is supposed to go here. I thought it was right there, but it's not taking it right there. Because what we want to put in here, what we had in here before, if you remember, what we had in here before we put in this, is we had an H2 that we were hard coding in there. All right, and it said to do test item. We want to replace that now, and we want to replace it with our title. All right, so I know that's the right code. The problem is I'm not sure right now where to put it. So we're going to take a break, not this second, but we'll take a break in about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll figure out where it's supposed to go. All right, then we'll fix it. All right. Okay, when we go in and we're working on editing something, again, we already talked about this. You can at least possibly change your mind. So I could be in the middle of editing a to-do and then decide, I really didn't want to edit that. So I want to be able to hit the escape key, all right, and have whatever it was that I was putting in there, just have those changes go away. Well, the problem is with the way that it's running, that it's set up right now, this value that we're working with, all right, this value it holds right now whatever it is we're typing in. So in other words, we're not keeping the old value that was in there, is what I'm telling you. All right. So what we want to be able to do is save what's in there originally. So we're going to change this from to-do value. We'll just call it temp value. All right. This again, we're setting this up so that eventually once we hit enter, it'll take our change. But if we hit escape, it'll stop right there. All right. So where we've got down here, where we've got this thing that we just entered this to do right here, instead of having it say set value or set to do value, e.target.value, okay, we're going to say set temp value. So it'll be this, okay? And again, I want to make sure you understand what I'm trying to say here, because I'm probably not doing the greatest job of elaborating. But you come in here, you type in something. So let's just say that was there. What we want to be able to do then is, if we put in something else, so if we get rid of it, put in something else and hit enter, we want that to replace what was there. If we're typing something in here and originally it said hello, and we change our minds and we start to come in here and we say, hey, how are you? Now, if we change our mind and we hit escape, that original hello that was in there doesn't exist anymore, anyplace. We don't have access to it. We want to have access to it. So again, if we do decide to come in and change our minds from what was happening in here, all right, we'll be able to handle it. And if you say, I don't get it, then let's look at it this way. All right. So we came in here on this key down. This is whatever key we pressed. And right now, what we're saying is, if it was either one of these, all we're doing is we're saying, stop it from being edited. That's it. We're not doing anything at all with it. So we don't want to do it like this. We could do it like this, but it technically wouldn't be right because it's handling hitting enter and hitting escape in the same way. All right. So we could come in here and change this to if key press equal 13. All right. Then we want to do something. Okay. Else if key pressed equal 27, we want to do something. We could do it like that. I didn't write it like that. I put it in as a switch statement. Maybe that was a little overkill, but that's how I did it. So I put a switch here on that key pressed. And I said case 13, we want to set to do value equal to that temp value. So in other words, we want to replace whatever it is that we had in there. All right. And we want to set is to do being edited equal to false. And then we want to break. On the other hand, if it's 27, okay, then we want to set, it's kind of the reverse of what we just did. We want to set temp value equal to the to-do value. And we want to set the is edited again to false. And we want to break. And if it's anything other than that, we'll just break. All right. So what we're doing in here, and I know this doesn't sound, maybe it sounds a little weird or a little whatever, but what we want to do in here is we want to say, hey, if we hit enter, we want to take temp value and we want to replace what's in there with temp value, and we're done editing. On the other hand, if we hit escape, we want to take what was in here for this temp value and we want to reset it to what it originally was. So you see these two things are basically being flipped on lines 20 and 25, for lack of better words. All right. Now, it's not going to work. And the reason that it's not going to work right now is the same error that I told you about a second ago. All right. And don't worry about all this stuff. It's all going to go away when I fix the other error. All right. Now, we're going to do one more thing and then we're going to take a break. Now, later on, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a backend folder to this. And in that backend, we'll want to have the ability to connect to MongoDB. Well, for now, we're going to simulate a backend. And what I mean is we're going to make our own super simple to-do list that we're going to just basically make as an array of JSON objects, just so we have something in there that we can work with. All right. So what I want you to do is to go to app.js here. All right. And let's see. Again, in app.js, we've got import React from React. That's fine. All right. But we also want to import in here use state like we did before from React. All right. So next, right up above where we've got this, where are we here? We've got it as function app because I didn't change this. But remember, we can also, if you want to, we can write const app paren const app equals paren. All right. Then this like that. Now, if you don't like that, then go back to the way it used to be. This is the new way of writing things. That's the old way. All right. They both work. Some people find this new way confusing, or they're used to using the old way. Other people like using that way. Oops. I'll just leave it like that. All right. So right up above this, we're going to actually come in here. We're going to create, this will be removed later. All right. So we're simulating some database input. So I'm going to come in and say const, we'll just call it list. It doesn't matter what you call it. And in here, I'm just going to have 3 lines full of stuff. Okay. And they're all going to have titles. Again, that's whatever it says. And this will say to do number 1. And I'm just going to copy it. The next one can be to do number 2. And the last one can be to do number 3. Now, eventually what we want is when we run this, we want those 3 things to populate our to-do list when we start. All right. Okay. And hopefully that'll happen sooner, not later. All right. Next, under this line that we just changed to const app, we're going to add this. Const to-do list set to-do list. And we're going to set equals use state list. Now, my hope is, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think I'm going to be. All right. My hope is that that at least makes some sense to you. All right. What this is saying right here is we want to initialize our to-do list with what we put in here. All right. So right here, we are initializing it to list, which is right here. Okay. All right. Now, in here, what do we have right now? We've got these section tags we made the other day. We got the title, we got the form, and we've got the list. All right. Well, now we're going to want to pass something down. So we're going to want to say list equals and that to-do list. All right. And then finally, we're going to have to go down and we're going to have to make some changes. All right. We're going to make one more change right here, then we're taking a break. So let's do a file, save all. Okay, and let's go back to list.js. And we've got this const in here, etc. All right, but this isn't enough. Again, remember, we're getting past this, passed into here. We're getting passed in this list. This is the prop that's getting passed in. All right. Now, before our return statement, what we want to do in here is we want to iterate over that list so that it's going to print out what we want it to print out. And if you say, I don't get it, well, like I said, hold on for just a second. Okay, so I'm going to say here const, we can call it whatever we want. I just called it our list equals list dot map. And we want to go through it item by item. I'm going to put this on a new line. You don't have to. You could just keep typing here, but I'm putting it on a new line. All right. So let's see. This, and we return. Okay. Let's see, comma expected. Well, we'll have to fix this. Okay. Now this we should be able to change now. And inside of here, we should be able to put in here or list. Right? Now again, it's funky, it's showing an error, so let's see if we can figure this out. What we want to do is we want the thing to iterate, and basically we're asking it right here, we're asking it to go back and we're asking it to grab from in here these three things. This is currently our to-do list. And we are asking it there to map over it and to set those to-dos up by grabbing each one of the titles. All right. And then we're telling it to return the list. I'm not sure if that makes any sense or if that makes at least some sense. But it is 1:04. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll come back at 1:15. We'll pick it up and I'm going to try to figure out the errors that I put in here in the interim. Hmm. All right, John. Evan got a hold of me during the break, and there's some problems with scheduling for spring. So we ended up talking the entire time over the break, and I didn't get the chance to look at any of this. I will tell you that right now, and it sounds like I'm, what's the old saying, copping out or flaking out, but I'm on some medication right now that's making it very hard for me right now it's making it very hard for me to concentrate. So I'm going to end today. We're going to start tomorrow. We're going to go as long as we need to go tomorrow. Between tomorrow and Wednesday, we're going to finish this. And then I'm going to give you Thursday to individualize this and Friday to individualize this. And then next week on Monday, we're going to talk about how you can take React projects and Node projects and put them out onto the internet so that you can use them. All right. So I'm just going to pick it back up right here tomorrow. Where you are is fine. Where I am is fine. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to go into the Rankin Wentzville campus and I'm going to get my notes because those are updated and that'll help me a lot. So sorry about this, but I'll see you tomorrow.